Well, it's week 9 of the college football season, and Texas A&M still has everything to play for. They've put themselves in a position for the upcoming matchup versus LSU to mean a hell of a lot in the landscape of college football. Because you got the two teams that are tied for first place in the SEC. Who would have thunk it? I mean, I had LSU in a down year. I thought LSU was like an 8-9 win team this year, and that could still happen. Same could go for A&M. But both teams have put themselves in a position to really compete for the highest goals of their season this coming Saturday. But we're coming off of a game versus Mississippi State, a hard fought, kind of a back and forth, up and down kind of a game. And we need to reflect on that because I think a lot of that is showing us where we are as a program, as a team, going into the pivotal stretch of the year. And I think it's pretty clear that the team is still a work in progress, but they're far enough along to where they're still able to win games and compete. And that was always the conversation with the schedule we had. Manageable, yet losable games. And you passed another test, and it wasn't always pretty. So let's talk about the game. We've done our rewatches of the game. I took notes, watched film, did all that stuff. And let's reflect going forward. I mean, we could talk about how we've gotten to and where we are, but we know that by now. We'll talk about it a little bit. But let's progress forward because now we're looking at a critical stretch of the year where you could, fight for the highest possible prize if you're able to keep progressing. So guys, like and subscribe. Thanks for being here. Let's talk about the Mississippi State game and what we're going to take away from it, both positive and negatively. So offensively, I know we're going to look at the Connor Wigman interceptions as the main anxiety point going forward. But even through all of that, I thought there were quite a few offensive bright spots on the day. Now, it was an uneven performance. That's the word I'm going to use a lot in this video. Very uneven. You had some good runs. You had some really good passes. But it seems like for every couple good plays you had a really bad one. Some really nice sustained drives on the day. But it wasn't always smooth. The A&M offense had some trouble getting the run game established this game. And I thought Moss played well. I thought Amari Daniels maybe played his best game, and the stats will not reflect that because a lot of his runs got stuffed by way of offensive line busts, which we'll talk about in a second. But I was really proud of how Amari was able to show a lot of patience and recognition of his gaps. That showed on his touchdown play. That showed on several of his runs. That showed on that screen play that A&M executed on early in the game on 3rd and long. Really happy with Amari's development. And obviously, Le'Veon had some awesome runs. He would have been well over 100 yards rushing on the day, but there were some ticky-tack penalties. I'm not going to go too deep into that today. You can go look at my X account for all the penalties that we saw. I recorded some film and threw it on my X account if you want to go check that out. Some of the ticky-tack calls. Y'all weigh in on that. But outside of these positives, I thought the O-line played a pretty mediocre game for their standards so far in the year. I thought that there was some struggle comboing up to linebackers at times, and too often linebackers were able to get to the running back before they could get ahead of steam and really kind of slow down the running attack. And it forced A&M to be a little bit more pass heavy than maybe they would have liked. And I thought that was a little surprising. I thought the O-line would really have their way with this defense. And on some plays they did, like that Amari touchdown. I thought that was a perfectly blocked play where both combos got up to both linebackers. It was a perfect tunnel to the end zone. But on other plays, I just thought that there was a step down in performance by the offensive line on running plays. Now, they protected Connor fair enough. I think there were only a few pressures in the game, didn't give up a sack in the game. Connor was good at getting rid of the ball, not always accurately, but he got the ball out of there. I think Fayu maybe had his worst game of the year. I think maybe we were due for a bad game from a couple of guys. I thought the right side of the offensive line kind of struggled in communication at times, but I think Mississippi State attacked us well. I think they had some really well-timed blitzes on plays where A&M has had tendencies to run the ball. I think by now we recognize that 1st and 10 is typically a shot play for A&M. A lot of first downs dating back from Arkansas to now, that's when they're taking their deep shots. And it works at times, but at times it doesn't. And I think they're willing to do that because they rely on their running game to make up ground on 2nd and 10 and give yourself a 3rd and manageable where you're flexible because A&M's willing to run on 3rd and 6. We've seen that several times on the year. But I think Mississippi State really keyed in on that, and they sent some unchecked blitzers on run plays, and it worked at times against A&M. Now, A&M's have to go back to the drawing board and hone in on some of that stuff. For instance, there was always this weak side chaser that Mississippi State was screaming on running plays, whether it was 3rd and short, whether it was 2nd down. And oftentimes with an A&M scheme, that weak side edge guy is left unchecked, or it's a read for the quarterback, and I don't think Connor read those plays particularly well, if that was the play. Again, go check out my X profile. I highlighted a couple of those plays. I just thought Mississippi State attacked our run game really well, and we're definitely going to need to see that shored up versus LSU. LSU doesn't have the best run defense, but they do have a really nice blitz and pressure package. Blake Baker doing a really good job over there sending bodies, and they can attack that scheme for scheme, maybe not body for body, and they can make you pay there. And we know A&M really wants a strong running game for Colin Klein's offense to be at its best. So yeah, offensive line, I didn't think it was the best, but I'm still really happy with the two running backs' performances, even though the stats won't show that. The team was great on third down, especially early in the game. I think they went 9 for 10 on their first 10 third down plays. I mean, as many bad plays as Connor had, and they were really bad. Those 4 turnover-worthy passes were really bad. I thought he showed some great poise on other plays that weren't those. And of course, those plays can define a game. But I think overall, we're not looking at this Connor game like we did the Notre Dame game. I think he was 15 for 25 on the day. 4 of those balls were egregious, just missing zone defenders. Mississippi State doing a good job disguising coverage. Connor maybe rushing through his reads a little bit at times and didn't see guys. And for instance, that Le'Veon Moss wheel route, that was the right read. He threw the ball to the right player. Le'Veon Moss had a one-on-one on the outside, and there was no help over the top. He just threw the ball at the wrong angle. If he lays that ball over Le'Veon's shoulder, that's potentially a touchdown play. But instead, he opts for a bullet pass, and I believe that one was dropped. It could have been a pick 6. But inconsistencies like that are going to scare you a little bit going into a critical game where possessions are going to be at a premium versus LSU. I mean, they're looking to score every possession they have, and they believe they can with the strengths of their team, especially with Nussmeier, just improving over the course of the year. And we'll talk more about the LSU game in my next video, which might even drop tonight at latest Tuesday. But you can't give teams extra possessions. That was my key going into the game, and that's what made the game close. I mean, you had a chance to put the team away twice, and I think interceptions and then giving up that huge fast drive before the half really slowed that down. But Connor's had a couple balls high, had a couple balls low, missed a couple reads. It's a progression for Connor, obviously. We hoped that what he showed versus Missouri, which is almost a perfect game, couple bad balls, but almost a perfect game versus Missouri for Connor. We hoped that would be copy-paste going forward. But now we saw a team with a full week to scout Connor, able to disguise some coverages and kind of take advantage of that. Now it's Connor's turn to go back to the drawing board, go back to the film room, and key in on some of the errors he made in the game. And if you look at Nussmeier and Connor in recent games, I think you kind of flip-flop how they've done. Versus Ole Miss, Nussmeier kind of played like Connor played today. 2 turnovers and several turnover-worthy balls. He was under 50% passing in the game versus Ole Miss, but he came up with the clutch plays down the stretch to win the game. This week versus Arkansas, Nussmeier was near perfect on the day. He had a great game, great progression on the road in Fayetteville. Now with Connor, it was the week before where he had the clean game versus Missouri, and this week where he had the uneven game. So now we're going to kind of meet at the crossroads this next game and see which quarterback performs. But I have some faith in the Aggie defense to be able to make the LSU offense pay. I thought the Aggie defense started pretty bad, and I don't think that's a debated topic. I think we all saw it. And, of course, we're leaving this game saying, okay, that was maybe the best Scooby Williams game we've ever seen. Torrin York played really well in the game. But it didn't start that way. First couple drives, I thought there were some really bad misfits by the linebackers, allowing for some sustained drives, some sustained possessions, and Mississippi State started fast because of it. Now, that is like kind of hearkening back to the issues early in the year, right? You're going through a learning curve of the linebacker position, the post-Edger and Cooper way of life, if you will. And we've seen some progression over the last few weeks, and I thought that stalled early in this game. But the really, really encouraging thing is they were able to flip that into maybe the best 2.5 quarters of linebacker play we've seen on the year. So we saw them able to go out there, adjust, hone in, and we saw Scooby Williams all over the place in the game. Got an interception, got his hands on balls, made some great tackles, had some tackles for loss. Same thing with Torrin York. I think that was the best Torrin game we've had all year. He was on time, and we know Torrin has to be on time with his reads and his reactions, given his deficiency in speed and athleticism. Not terrible. I don't want to poo-poo on Torrin too much, but he needs to be on time. given his size, and he usually is. In this game, he was on time way more often than not, which was awesome to see. And I just love the way the defense turned it on in the second half, man. They had 10 batted balls in the game, 6 of which were at the line of scrimmage, and the interception. There was a second interception that got called back. I forget what the call was, but late in the game, Des Ricks had a pick. And it was just really cool to see the defense put the clamps on in the second half. Let's take a minute to appreciate, we have to, right? Appreciate good football. Michael Van Buren from Mississippi State, that's a star in the making. I am not looking forward to potentially going to Starkville ever, but specifically his junior year in 2 years, if that's how the schedule lines up. We don't have that schedule yet. We don't know how where they're gonna go with the SEC scheduling in 3 years. Not looking forward to that. That quarterback was a wizard. Accurate balls under pressure, accurate balls while the pocket is collapsing, stepped up in the pocket really well. I wanted to talk about that 2-minute drive that A&M gave up before the half. The defense looked lost on that possession. Things were moving too fast for the defense to hone in on, and it looked really bad. I thought there were some really bad blitzes. I thought the defense got conservative there, and they were able to run a couple times early in that drive. With a 3-man front, they were rushing a 4th guy, but as a blitzer. But I feel like you were giving up too much in the running game there for against an offense that likes to go fast and is accustomed to going fast, and they're willing to run the ball with under 2 minutes left because they're good at running to the line of scrimmage and getting their next play in. So if they're going to get a positive running play early in that drive and you're just going to take that, they're going to line up and not take too much time off the clock because that's what that offense does. And I don't think we reacted well there. I thought there was some, players lost in the secondary on that possession. I thought there were some really weak secondary safety blitzes on that possession. And A&M paid for it. And again, you honed it in the second half, but that was there and that happened. And maybe that's coming off of a bye week. Maybe you chalk that up to rust, but that cannot happen next week. You do that a couple times, they're going to outpace you in the game. That's a high-powered offense you're going up against LSU. So you can't have these quarter to multi-quarter lapses defensively against an even better offense next week. I'm going to ask you guys this. I brought this up a couple times. Was Mississippi State the best offense you faced on the year so far? I know that's crazy to say about a 1-6 team, but the progression, the scheme, Jeff Lebby's ideology is kind of permeating the team, his personality kind of reflected on the field now. I think that showed, and I think that was a really good dress rehearsal for what's to come. Your two best offenses, without doubt, coming up in LSU and Texas on the year. And I think that was a good dress rehearsal and a really good sign to show the adjustments because they had nothing going in that second half. Their only scoring possession in that second half was off of a short field by a bad Connor misread on the interception, like inside the 15-yard line. The one thing you couldn't do, you did it right there. So just play a more even game, man. It was very uneven. I liked some of the play calling offensively. I liked you were able to execute on a screen. We'd seen A&M try several screen plays on the year, most of which just had poor execution and nothing really the defense did, just A&M not being where they needed to be on screen plays, whether it's not having an available receiver in the throwback screen versus Arkansas or just having the running back kind of off timing versus Missouri on that screenplay. You got a really good one in this game. I really liked getting Jabri Barber involved with the quick outs. Obviously, this guy's a solid route runner with solid hands. Like we said, like we've been talking about, I think Jabri and Bussy are going to play critical roles down the stretch this year, given the receiver room. I really like Jade, I really like Noah, but I think those are the two other guys. I like some of the stuff we got from Cyrus Allen, but obviously he had the big drop on the play on the day. I mean, that was a near touchdown, huge gain at worst. If he's able to hone that ball in, I want to see more Jabri. I want to see Cyrus hone that in, and we got to get Bussy back healthy. Real quick on the overthrow to Noah Thomas, I do think that was a catchable ball by Noah. I think Noah mistimed it. Go back and watch it. You tell me what you think. I thought Connor had a decent ball on that play, a little bit high, a little bit behind, but I do think Noah could have reeled that one in. But I am liking the offensive trends. I really like the wheel play-action play that Connor threw the interceptable ball going to Moss. We talked about a second ago. I really like some of the stuff we're seeing from the offense, but you got to have a steady running game, and you got to hone in some of those passes. Defensively, love the resilience, love the ability to get better throughout the course of a game. We're looking out for a few key injuries, guys. We're going to get probably some clarity today from Elko. If you're watching this before Elko's spoken, we don't know. If you're watching this after Elko's spoken on Monday, you may have a hint by now. I'm pretty worried about Shamar Stewart and Scooby Williams' injuries. I think they were largely non-contact calf injuries, and calf strains can linger and hold you out of games if they're bad calf sprains. It's a high variance type of an injury, and obviously there could be a worse route with the lower calf injury, but I don't know if we're going to go there yet. We'll have to hear from Elko there. And then apparently Basantos was in a boot, didn't come back in the game after that early injury. So those are 3 key injuries. I do have faith in Scorton maybe resting a few days of practice and coming back in the game next week because he kept playing throughout the game. Really good toughness shown by Scorton. Scorton able to keep playing through his injuries. Kind of worried about those, especially defensively. I do have a level of faith with the offensive line to have a next man up. You know, they've obviously had that mantra all year, especially in the interior of that O-line. It seems like whoever you throw out there is doing well, but Basantos did present the upside of that O-line. He was maybe one of the best, highest ceiling players on that line, so that sucks. Look out for your reports. So we've been talking about it, but going forward, it's cleaning up the passing game. I mean, how do you guys feel about Connor? I want to hear from you. Is this something he can hone in? We got to remember, that's maybe his 10th game played. He's still a very young, raw quarterback. We're seeing ups and downs. He's in a new scheme. Obviously, coming back from multiple injuries at this point, there's reason to believe he can hone it in, but there's also reason to believe that that's just how it's going to be this year. So can you escape LSU with a 2-turnover, 4-turnover worthy kind of a game? I don't think so. I need to see Connor clean it up if you're going to win these big games. I do have faith in the defense, though. I think just got to clean stuff up, be more consistent. Coming off a bye, you have that stuff on film. I do have a level of faith on this defense to pick up where they ended in the second half versus Mississippi State going into the LSU game. So you got to get a pass rush. It's a really, really good offensive line in the pass blocking department you're going to see from LSU, and you can't let them find a running game. They really haven't had a consistent running game all year, so you're really going to need to hone in on all that stuff. And it was surprising to see Mississippi State have so much running success early in the game. Maybe you were keying on the pass. Maybe you were ready for a pass-heavy attack, but they kind of, pulled the floor from underneath you in the game and started running the ball early in the game out of their spread looks and with some really good scheme. So you got to be ready for that versus LSU, and I think they will be because they showed it late in the game. So guys, I want to hear your thoughts coming out of this game. Do you feel uneasy about it? I'm happy with the win, man. Overall, I like the way the team responded. I like the way the team fought in the game and got better over the course of the game. That's always encouraging to see, and that's a trend we saw broken because early in the game, or early in the year, Florida and Bowling Green, you saw the team not finish the game very strong. But in this game, and versus Missouri, and especially versus Arkansas, the latest 3 games, you've seen strong finishes from the Aggies. And this kind of felt Bowling Green-ish in the midpoint of the game, right? You had the turnovers. You didn't have those versus Bowling Green, but you had a lot of stalls versus Bowling Green. And then you saw just some bad defensive play early in the game. But instead of letting that thing kind of tip over and become really scary in the end, you locked in. That's positive. That's what we take forward. So again, guys, I want to hear from you. Let me know how you're feeling after this game. I'll drop the next video previewing the LSU game, talking all about them, talking about matchups, and I'll give you my score prediction very, very soon. We'll be going live tonight, Monday night, 7:30. You guys have a chance to call in and reflect on the game. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Gig 'em.